Alrighty, beautiful and strong people. Today we're going to talk about the Unrack, lesson 4 of the bench press mastery. I like to call the Unrack the make or breaker of your setup. We've been talking about a lot of positional conditions, such as the setup, such as the leg drive, such as the wedge, which is actually connecting you to the bar. But now we're getting into a little bit more of a movement. So we're pretty much breaking the inertia of the barbell through the wedging process. We're breaking the inertia of the barbell from the hooks. We're bringing it into the initial position, and we're pretty much starting the movement. So this is where if your Unrack is going to be sloppy, soft, or just unfocused and not intentional, the bar will feel significantly heavier. You're going to lose stability into the position. And of course, the transfer of force from your shoulders to the barbell will actually have to suffer. So we need to really take care about how we're actually unracking the bar, because it's the gateway to execution. It's the transfer of tension into the movement. It's what's, separating the inertia to actually movement. It sets the tone for the bar path. So if you're way too far behind and you're actually unracking, you're going to lose the shoulder position. You're going to have your shoulders loaded up instead of actually having your lats. If you're way too far back through the unrack process, you're actually going to shift the center of mass a little bit more forward. So it's going to be a little bit tougher to actually go through the pressing motion. If when you're unracking, you're losing the shoulder position through protracting your shoulders too much, again, you're going to load your shoulders. You're not going to have the same stability around the back of your shoulders. So the upper back will not be as tight as we can actually make it. And of course, through this process, we're actually going to lose stability. So it's going to be very hard to make that press strong and stable. Now, the key with the Unrack is the fact that you need to be patient with it. Just like with the wedging process, the wedge and the Unrack are going hand in hand. It must be intentional, not rushed, not casual. You need to take your time with it. You need to actually feel the tension. You need to actually connect with the bar. And through the Unrack process, you're actually bringing that bar out, then bringing it into the initial position so you can actually start the press. So we're going to go through a step-by-step process of how to make the Unrack. Okay? Big key, lock in the wedge and leg drive first. Okay? So you do not want to be soft through the Unrack process. You want to be as solid. You want to hold as much tension as possible. You need full tension around your legs, full tension around your upper back, lats engaged. So as you're going through the Unrack process, you have as much of a stable base from which you're bringing the bar out as possible. Hand in hand, it goes with the breathing process. If you're unracking without being braced, the bar will feel significantly heavier into your arms. So make sure that either through the Unrack process or even before the Unrack process, you're actually going through a breathing and bracing pretty much process. I'm repeating myself with too many processes in here. So you actually have a lot of air, you have a lot of tension into your body, and the bar just absolutely pops out of the position. The way we want to think about the Unrack is more so as a means to pull the bar out, not up. Okay, so we want to minimize any kind of vertical movement forward. We do not want to move our shoulders too far forward into protraction. We want to just think about lat pullovering the bar out, or in such cases, based on how your hooks are, you can just think about elbow lock. So you do not want to make you too much of an use of this vertical movement of the shoulder forward. You want to make as much use of that lat and your triceps in order to keep your shoulder into position. Once you bring the bar out, you want to make sure that you let the bar settle over your shoulders. So just as going through the wedging process, you want to make sure that you're not having your elbows flexed. You want your elbows to be completely locked. You want to let the weight of the barbell to actually pull you back and pull your shoulder blades into position, pretty much squish the cushion, squish the bench. And that's pushing any kind of let's say it's not pulling the slack, it's actually pushing any kind of slack that you're actually having into your joints to the barbell as much as possible. So you're actually becoming one with the bar, and you can easily transfer the force from the shoulders to the barbell. So I have another example in here, which is a little bit more visual about how to do the unrack. As you can see, I have a slight flexion of my elbow. As I'm going through the wedging process, you're going to see how the bar just pops out of the position. Okay, so watch my shoulder, how my shoulder is actually rooted into the bench, and watch how the bar is just sliding off the hooks. Okay, let's watch it again. So it just slides out of the hooks and into position. Of course, this is the bar alone, but the more efficient you're actually going with the wedging process, the easier it's actually going to be to just pop the bar out no matter the weight. Okay, because you're pretty much pushing yourself into the bench, you're really squishing the cushion, you're bringing all that tension into the bench, and it's just easier to actually bring the bar out. So that's how you want to think about the unrack. You want to think about pullovering the weight away from the hooks. If you do find yourself, and I'm coming back to the setup process, if you do find yourself in a situation in which either the hooks are too high or too low, you can make use of the yoga mats to stack them up so you can actually have a little bit more leverage. You can make use of some wrist wraps to pretty much push the bar a little bit higher up so you have an easier time actually unracking. And of course, if you have a squat rack in which you can actually bench, I would definitely make use of that more than just using a shitty commercial bench. But you do want to make sure that you're having some degree of elbow flexion in here. The bar is actually pulled to the edge of the J hook, and you have traction on the bench press. If neither of these are, or one of these are not addressed, it's gonna be a little bit harder to, first of all, slide, secondly, wedge, and thirdly, make use of the unrack. So a couple of common mistakes that I want you to avoid these at all costs. The first one is the most obvious one, lifting the bar up and losing scapular retraction. So just watch here, flattening my elbows out, trying to push the bar out. And right now, all the tension, all the weight is actually loaded into my shoulders. So another common mistake would be letting the bar drift too far forward. So when you're pulling the bar out, the bar ends way under your shoulder blades or your shoulders. So instead of actually having the bar in the initial place around your shoulders or shoulder blades, the bar will actually load a lot of your shoulders because it's going to actually tilt forward. It's going to move your center of mass forward. And the press is going to be very difficult because you're not going to have as much of a stable position. The touch point will go significantly lower than your sternum. So you're pretty much going to drop the bar to your tummy, somewhere around there. And when you're trying to press, that is going to be significantly diminished from a force production perspective because you're not having the bar balanced over your center of mass. So it's going to be a tough one. You want to make sure that when you're bringing the bar out, it's around your shoulders, shoulder joint or your shoulder blade. And that's going to depend a lot on how much you're arching. The more you can arch, the more you can actually hold the barbell around your shoulder blades. Let's say the less you can arch, the more that barbell will actually tend to be somewhere around the shoulder joint. Okay, so any one of those is pretty much the sweet spot. You're actually going to find where that sweet spot is, where you feel the least tension in the initial position. So when you're unracking, if you feel like you don't really need to contract any extra muscles in the setup to hold the barbell, you're going to know that that's the initial position. That's exactly where the bar should be in the initial position. Another common mistake would be unracking before bracing or driving your legs. Okay, so if you're unracking soft, again, tension is key. Tension is key through the setup process. Tension is key through the unrack process. Tension is key through the descent. Tension is key through the pause. Is absolutely key through the pressing motion. And tension is key through the lockout. So all of these, if tension is not there, the bar will fight you. The bar will feel heavier. The bar will absolutely plummet your confidence. It's going to absolutely plummet your stability. It's going to absolutely plummet your force production. So you do not want to be soft. You want to be as braced and as solid into the setup as possible, so you can actually make the lift as easy as possible. So if you are using a handoff, you want to make sure that you're actually communicating clearly what you want him or her to actually do. Okay? You want to make sure that when they're giving you the bar, they're not elevating your shoulders. Instead, they're trying to lift it straight out and over your shoulders, not up. So you're going to notice right here how I'm helping someone unrack the bar. He is pretty much locking his elbows. And you're going to notice, if you're looking at the shoulders, you're going to notice how the shoulders do not move at all. And when I'm driving the bar out, they're remaining into position. So that's exactly what we want to achieve as a handoff. This is also a lesson for you as a handoff. You do not want to push the bar up. You want to actually pull it, help him pull the bar out into position. Okay, so no more extra elevation of the shoulders. You're just helping him pull the bar out. He's locking his elbows up, and you do not need to do any extra lifting from there. Another important thing is the gradual release of tension or weight, so your joints don't get a shock. Okay, so you're going to notice that once I'm actually bringing the bar out, I'm not just dropping the bar. Okay, I'm slowly releasing tension. This is why I'm actually dropping my body down. I'm slowly releasing tension, so his body and his joints are progressively loaded by the weight. Okay, so never have someone just drop the weight. And if you're doing a handoff, never just release the bar, especially if that's a significant barbell. So if that individual has a lot of weight and he's trying to max out or a PR, you want a gradual load of the weight onto his joints so his body can actually tolerate that load easily and it's not going to be a shock for him. So a couple of cues for the unrack. You want to think about one piece, not pieces, okay? Either pull the bar out, not up. That's a very easy cue to actually use. Hold your breath until the bar settles. So you do not want to release the breath through the unrack process. Once you're finishing the unrack, you want to let the bar settle into your arms. You want to push any kind of remaining slack. And after that, you can either re-engage your bracing, or what I actually recommend a lot is learn to hold your breath as much as possible. The more you can actually hold your breath, so you're breathing through the unrack process or just before the unrack process, and you're holding that breath for 1, 3, 5 repetitions. Doing that, of course, unless you have a, let's say, a heart condition, I do not recommend you to actually do that. But if you're healthy and you have no problem whatsoever, I do recommend you to hold as much of your breath and your bracing as possible, because that's going to make your setup a lot more consistent and make the transfer of force a lot more consistent. From the moment in which you're letting the air out, and if you are resetting your breath, you want to make sure that you're not letting all the air out. You're gradually letting some air out so you can actually fill it up again. So if you were to release a percentage of your breath out, you want to do something like 30% to 40% out, and after that, re-engage with the bracing so you do not lose all that tension, all that position that you actually built through the setup, through the wedging process, and through the unrack process. And very important, leg drive and lats. You want the tension from both of them. You do not want to do the unrack without the leg drive because you're going to be soft. You do not want to do the unrack without the lats lock, so the connection with your lats, or the weight will actually load your shoulders. and you're going to have a bad time. Okay, so leg drive and lats at all times during the Unrack. So this was the Unrack lesson. Next one is going to be the bar grip, the contact that connects everything. We're going to learn a little bit more about the differences in the bar grip and when should you use it and how should you use it, based on your anthropometry, based on your individual differences, and based, of course, on the goals. If you guys have any questions in regards to this lesson, just shoot me a message and I'm going to clarify it. I'm going to catch you on the next one.